Isla Mujeres. Isla.
Isla.
Isla Mujeres, Mexico.
I guess how did you get here?
Whew. Well, it was a long sail to get here. Started in Key West. Went across to Havana, Cuba, spent some time there. Sailed the Havana coast, or I'm sorry, the Cuba coast. And then jumped out into the Yucatan and came here. It was a difficult sail too. Because of the season, there's not a lot of winds now, and we're trying to take advantage of all we could. So we motored off out into the water while before the wind started blowing. Then had our sails up and were positioned to go, and then the winds just never came. So we had a real slow, long time getting here. The Gulf Stream was really moving and took us way off course. What was supposed to be a 2 or 3 day sail ended up taking a week, but we made it. Isla Mujeres, happy to be here. It's just a stop along the way though. When I left Key West, I said I was going to Guatemala, which is still what I intend to do. Things are taking longer than they were supposed to though, and the season's wearing on. It's well into hurricane season now, so I have to use a lot of caution. I have 2 routes I can take to get to Guatemala. I could fight the current and get inside the reef in Belize. The hazards there's a lot of potential to run aground. It's also expensive to travel through Belize. Alternatively, I could go back across the Gulf Stream, sail south for several days, and then come back in and get into Guatemala. That'll be about 7 days offshore by myself. I don't have crew anymore, so I'd be pretty reliant on a good weather window, or at least the autopilot. I mean, there's lots of things that can happen. A week at sea is a long time to be out there by yourself. Figure I could heave to if my autopilot goes out. Otherwise, hopefully I could just fight my way through and get to Guatemala safely. I really don't want to do a bunch of in-sail sailing. I've been told in Belize it's good to have an extra person out at the bow watching the waters. You can literally see where there's shoals, and it's not very well charted. Isla was supposed to be a small stop. I've been here nearly a month now. Working on getting parts for my outboard. I damaged it on the last time using it, so I'm trying to repair my outboard. Just get everything in order. While I'm here now, I'm just exploring too, checking out the beaches and all the local cultures, everything that the island has to offer, and then getting everything together to leave.
Before you got on the sailboat?
Where did the journey start? That's a difficult question to answer. Where does the journey start and where does it end? It's just keeps coming around, I've always been a traveler ever since I was young. I set out to see the neighborhood, see the state, see the country. I've always wanted to go further and see more. I started out actually hitchhiking, riding buses, and getting around the country by any means necessary. My introduction to the water was actually on a canoe. I had hitchhiked up to Minnesota, Lake Itasca, Minnesota, the headwaters to the Mississippi River. And me and the girl I was dating at the time, with very little experience, put a canoe in the lake, which turned into the water, the Mississippi. And we made it all the way down to New Orleans. Took us about 6 months of paddling and stopping along the way, just taking our time in little towns and things. But we managed to survive it, and must have been somewhere near like Mississippi maybe, where I started seeing sailboats, just small boats on the water. And at the time I had a misconception that sailing was just for the rich and famous. I thought, wooden sailboats, expensive, yachties, etc. I saw my first sailboat that I thought maybe I could afford. It wasn't more than like 17 feet long, 20 feet long, just enough room for a person to lay inside and sleep. And I inquired with the owner about what something like that would cost and how hard I'd have to earn, work to get it. And they looked at me with a little bit of confusion and told me I ought to get on Craigslist and see what sailboats really cost. And I realized I could get a boat for free if I was willing to put in the work. I also learned later on that there's nothing more expensive than a free sailboat, but I did eventually get a $1,200 boat. I negotiated and got it for $1,200. It was a 22-foot O'Day with a little 6 horsepower kicker on it, and was the perfect boat for me. Again, I had hitchhiked. I hitchhiked to Hilton Head, South Carolina, and that's where I bought it. I went out on my trial run, and the former owner told me to start the outboard and leave the dock, and I needed instructions on how to start an outboard. I had no clue. So I joked at the time I thought Tide was nothing more than a laundry detergent. But I bought the boat, and again, I had hitchhiked all the way across the country to get there. So I bought it, spent the night there at the marina, and they pushed me off into the water, and away I went. Fortunately, I quickly had the Georgia Intracoastal, which was a great place for me to bump my way along. There wasn't much to run into that wasn't mud. And so, through trial and error, I made my way through Georgia and eventually to Florida. And then, now the world, I've just kept working on my skills, saving my money, getting better boats, and I've worked my way up to now I have a 1994 36 Catalina, which is a very seaworthy vessel. Now they say the weakest part of a boat is the captain. The captain's the first thing to break, so trying to keep my wits about me and preparing myself for this week offshore by myself. It'll be my biggest sail to date. So maybe I've been on the water even longer than I said. After 7 years in Key West, you're considered a freshwater conch. I'll never be a local because I wasn't born there, but close enough. Freshwater conch, that's 7 years. So 7 years in Key West, in and out, of course. I've left for 6 months at a time, sailed the Everglades, I've sailed the Bahamas, sailed up the coast. I'm always moving around, but I always come back to Key West. It's a good place for sailors. It's a good place for me to earn and make money in between other voyages.
You do know
Writing a book about me? Well, it probably wouldn't be a very well-read book, and they might want to find something better to write about, but if somebody were writing a book about me, what would I want them to say?
or I guess 100 years from about you.
I don't know about me specifically, but if I were to give advice or something, I'd tell people not to wait. Meet a lot of people out here who said they wish they had done it when they were younger. They wish they hadn't waited so long, or that they're going to do it one day. The most difficult step is the first one. If you're trying to live off the grid, outside the norm, if you're trying to become, independent and be on a boat and travel the world, now is the time to do it. You got to take that leap of faith. Get your feet wet and get out there. When I first started this type of work, I didn't have a very strong skill set, and so I would go from town to town and I would solicit jobs doing labor. Anything from raking leaves to digging ditches. The lifestyle didn't demand very much money from me, and I didn't have a lot of reoccurring bills. So if I could find any type of trivial work where I could work for a week, I could then sail or continue down the riverways or do whatever. As I'm dreaming bigger, my boats are getting better, and I do require more money. I'm also developing skill sets, though. I can climb masts, so I can do a lot of work at the top of a mast that a lot of other sailors can't do, be it they're heavyweight, older, or just scared of heights. A lot of people can't get to the top of their mast, where I've got no problem doing that. I've also learned to dive. I'm scuba certified now, so I can clean boat bottoms, do salvage, build moorings, anything under the water as well. And I continue to learn. One time coming into Boot Key Marathon in the Florida Keys, they have a strong sailing community there with a lot of boats, and they have a cruiser's net where everybody gets onto the VHF in the morning and do a radio show. I got on and volunteered to work for free with any experienced sailor that would be able to teach me something. I'd be willing to be a second set of hands in order for information, knowledge. And to the day, I still like to get in there and get my hands dirty. If I can pick up some new knowledge, that's more valuable to me than most instruments and tools I have on the boat. Strangest, weirdest, most unusual.
Or
Oh,
or interesting.
I've had so many jobs. I'd have to say it was Miss Gay. I can't even remember what state we were in. Someplace south. Mississippi, Louisiana, we were south. But a friend that I met through social media's parents had bought a home that was in a lot of disrepair. There was a small fire there, things had happened. The former owner had passed away, and the neighbor was the former owner's mother. She must have been 80 years old and ornery. They had me move into the garage where I was going to spend a week or two working on the house. They hired me sight unseen and then met me. And when they met me, as soon as I left, they were very upset with the son who had hired me. Miss Gay would be very upset. She wouldn't like us being in the home. We were tattooed hippies with piercings, and it would not fly. Within 2 days' time, Miss Gay would come in over in the morning, waking us up with coffee and toast, and well, she couldn't have loved us anymore. She reminded me a lot of Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, right down to the accents and everything. She was Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies. She taught us how to clean squirrels and all sorts of things. But while the work I did was just monotonous work, the relationship I built there was grand. When we did finally leave, Miss Gay was upset. She was mad not that we came. She was mad that we were leaving. And so that was nice. That was interesting. We kept in contact for some time. Let her know we made it safely down the river. Yep. But there have been a lot of interesting jobs. When I get to a spot where the boat's not moving, where I hit a roadblock, where something breaks on the boat and I don't know how to fix it, and I don't have the knowledge, the tools, the neighbor to ask, I don't like being stagnant. You know, but there's been some lows. The most frightened I've ever been was on this last trip when we were becalmed in the Gulf Stream with no propulsion whatsoever. I had just told my mate, use extreme caution, and not moments later, he went head over heels over the side of the boat at night, and I had thought I lost him without the ability to retrieve him. Fortunately, he was able to hold on to something. Once he splashed and hit the water, he was able to grab the gunnel and get himself back into the boat. But when I thought I was going to lose crew, that was the lowest low, I'm sure. There's been so many moments that they're just $1 million moments. $1 million moments. I've so many sunrises, sunsets, being on anchor in tropical water with dolphins splashing around me. I've had more highs than most people in their life, I know that. I'm very fortunate. I've seen the Bahamas, I've sailed the Everglades, I've spent time with some really amazing people. To have that diversity in culture and wide demographic, I've seen all these things. My life is a high. I'm riding a high. It's been lasting for years now, and I'm fortunate for it. Several times I've started blogs, and I've let them go to the wayside. I'm more committed now than ever to write and share my story. I have a Facebook blog, The Ramblings of Ramblin Rabble, which is where I write and share my stories, and will continue to. Final thoughts by Ramblin Rabble, huh? I don't know that I have much. Just open your mind, get out and experience as much as you can. Don't let fear be a factor. That's all I got.
So we got. That's pretty good, man.
All right.